All right. So talking about interviewing today, it'll be our last day on the job hunting side of things. And then we're gonna move into the other half of this class, which is the how to do sales and kind of work for yourself and things like that. The information in the second half is a little bit more sparse than the first half. Because that doesn't come directly out of a textbook. That's really kind of just going back to NASM's chapter, I think 20, just going back to NASM's professional development chapter. But it'll be really good. We're going to get back into like marketing and stuff on Monday. That can be something that you apply really anywhere that you work. But yeah, so that is where we're at. So the interviewing section. So an interview is the means by which a candidate actually gets the job, right? So the idea here is where, this is where they actually are going to offer you a position based on, meeting you and getting to know you and your answers to specific job related questions and things like that. So it's the idea here behind an interview, right, is it's to facilitate the exchange of information. That's from the employer's perspective. They want you to know about what the job is like day to day, in case you feel like you aren't a good fit and you want to back out. And for you, it's a chance for you to kind of highlight your best qualities, because if they're interviewing anybody else, you want to make sure that they choose you over them. So, there's definitely a lot of like back and forth here. But it's a chance for them to kind of, assess your knowledge, your skills. They might ask you certain questions. In personal training, I will say the one thing that they like to do, they love to ask questions about specific like scenarios, like how you would handle this if your client did, that, and that's actually kind of nice. I think that like I've been told that my students do very well in those sections. I think like Sochi kind of kills that, because we have so many different things that we talk about over the 9 months, rather than just kind of prepping you for basic, I guess vanilla training. But yeah, so the idea here is, it's a chance for you to kind of answer any specific questions, but also to write the or put your best foot forward and kind of highlight yourself. So resume, again, you're going to see here, they finally actually got like specific resume information. But again, this is just like we talked about yesterday. The most effective resumes are focused on a specific job title, right? That's either personal trainer, group X instructor, or maybe you want to be a general manager. Putting that in the title like kind of shows that like specifically what it is you're aiming for. If you're going to do that though, you need to know a little bit about like what the duties and the responsibilities of that position is. And as long as you can do that, you'll be able to communicate that very well. I didn't know, by the way, here's the thing, I actually did really poorly on my interview at Sochi. So I completely bombed it because I'd never done like a teaching demo before. Like my interview was fine, but the teaching demonstration that I did afterwards was really rough. And then that was kind of the end of it. And it did not go very well, and there were a lot of candidates who were interviewing for this job. And so I like emailed this guy Greg immediately after I got home, and I was like, hey, I don't think that was my best work. I got a little flustered. After getting up there and kind of seeing what it was like in the classroom setting and how you wanted me to instruct the PowerPoints. At first, I thought it was a very odd order, but now I'm starting to make a little bit more sense to me. I understand you probably have other interviews, but I would love to have another chance to give you a different teaching demo if you have some stuff that you want to send me. And so it was kind of a weird thing to do, but I don't know, either they got desperate or, maybe the letter worked. And he was like, and so I got called in for a second teaching demo. And that time I crushed it. I felt much better about it. But like the first one, by the way, my interview, for those of you who've been through kinesiology, was the shoulder joint shoulder girdle day It was that PowerPoint from kinesiology. I think it's like the second to last PowerPoint in that course. But it was just like really technical information, and like the flow of it didn't make any sense to me. I was only supposed to do 20 minutes, but I was like, I don't know how to do this. And so he was nice enough to kind of call me in. And my second one, he was like, that was like night and day. He was like, oh, great, you know. He was like, we loved your first interview. We just didn't think, you know, I just didn't do a very good job explaining information. So that was my interview process, you know. They were trying, you know, it's about knowing the specific skills and stuff. I was trying to be an instructor. They needed to see my skill when it comes to like, you know, instructing. And so I just didn't have that in my first interview, which is fine, or in my first teaching demo. You won't have to do teaching demos, luckily, unless you guys end up, you know, doing what I do someday. You know, luckily it's just going to be an interview, but they will sometimes, as like a second interview, the training managers will, in usually smaller gyms, this doesn't happen in bigger gyms that often, but they'll say, okay, we're going to bring you in for a second interview, and you're just going to put me through like a little 20-minute workout, and we're going to give you a sort of a case study. And they might do something like that. So, you know, second interviews is where they want to see you like on the gym floor. They might even do like a mock sales presentation. I've seen people do that before. Oddly enough, I've never seen someone go through an assessment in an interview. I've never heard of that or seen that. And I think that would be the, you know, I think that's like gotta be the best way to test somebody. You know, it's like if you can, it's like, oh, your knees are caving in. They're like, that's fine. You know, it's like, oh, you're not assessing very well. You know, like, if it were me, that would be the harshest test. You know, we never really did like demos or anything like that in the places that I've worked, but. So anyway, with your resume, make sure that you know, put a clear objective at the top, focus on whatever specific job you're applying for. List your education, that's your schools, your certifications or internships or workshops that you've taken. Any relevant experience that you have. Your references should be separate. References are kind of going out of style anyways. However, I do recommend having a references sheet if it's not hard for you to make one. Don't use your family as references, and then make sure that there's no, you know, spelling stuff, grammatical typos and the like. Really quick. Oh yeah, Joseph, what's up?
So Brad, I have a question.
Yeah.
So do people really ask for references anymore? Because I know, having been a hiring manager in retail, I know you're not allowed to give out any information except to like list, like, you can't even tell how much people made. Basically, they can say, did he make between $20,000 to $30,000 a year? And all you can say is like yes or no. You can't give any information, because I guess here in California, people were getting sued because they consider it slander. Like if you said, oh, we fired him for stealing or something.
Oh my gosh. I did not know that, actually. It's funny you say that too, because like I imagine that would have gotten when I got hired at Biggest Loser, the reason I did is because like the trainer before me went to a Dodger game with a guest and like which is totally inappropriate. But they told me that like in the interview. Yeah, I do think that references are going a little bit out of style, just because everything is on the internet now. You know, it's like all online applications and things. Like the reason we like references sheets originally is because like when you are looking at a 3-4 page application that someone filled out by hand, you don't want to have to like read all those and like copy the phone number. You know, it was just kind of, you know, so a reference sheet is really, 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 really clean. And it's a great way to be like, oh, great, I can read that super easily and then you can call up the person. But nowadays it's all online. So a lot of times, like, you know, they see it on the computer, or they click a button and it connects to the phone and automatically. So I do think references are going out of style. I don't think that reference sheets are as common anymore. But remember, you should also only be using references that you asked permission, you know? Like I do recommend, guys, if you guys want to use me as a reference, I would everybody in this room, I'm looking, make sure I'm not lying. Yeah, no. I'd recommend all you guys. But yeah, that's sort of my approach to it. By the way, I wanted to do one little thing. I forgot about, I wanted to do this tonight. We made another very fancy modern resume last night in the evening course. And I just wanted to show you guys. It is a Canva resume as well, just like the one we made yesterday, except this one is a little bit cleaner and I like it a little bit more. It's also very small in terms of overall information. I don't know that I love the contact info being at the bottom instead of being near the name. And I don't know that I love this up here, but this was sort of the default, Southern California Health Institute and personal fitness training. There's the certifications. We did a little bit of a different thing here. We went National Academy of Sports Medicine, then we listed all 3 CPTs. It's kind of a unique approach to it. And then work experience and skills. So that's like, I wanted to kind of do that this morning, and I didn't, I totally forgot because we were talking about catfishing. But this is another really good format. But again, it is focused, you can see here, on like a specific title. If it was like, group exercise instructor, maybe that's what you want to put at the top of your resume. It's gonna be different for anybody, it depends on what field you want to find yourself in. But here's like one thing about your resume as well. One last little thing about it before we move back into strictly interview territory. But it is related to the interviews. The resume is where a lot of the questions during your interview are going to come from. They're going to say, oh, I see that you worked here. What was that like? They're going to have a lot of fun questions related to whatever it was that whatever it was that you used to do in the past. And so like, they're going to see what skills there are transferable. So they're going to ask you some targeted questions about that, which is another reason why to make sure that your resume is very well structured so that they don't ask you anything you maybe don't want to talk about. So when you're prepping for the interview, we want to make sure that, we're ready going in. Does anybody in here feel like they're really nervous in interviews? Anybody nervous about doing an interview?
Me.
Yeah.
I've done many of them and I still get nervous.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, honestly, like a little bit of nerves can be a handy tool, gives you a little bit of energy and kind of keeps you on your toes. But yeah, we want to like try to like make sure that we're not a nervous wreck before going into these interviews. So, the ways you can do that is you can prep. The more you prep, the more prepared you are, the more confident you feel about the interview process, the better. This is another one of the reasons why I like to call whatever company I'm trying to apply a job for. I love to call like in person on someone else's phone, and I'll just ask a lot of questions, a lot of like an annoying amount of questions, because then they're not going to remember who I am. They're not going to know who I am. But I'm going to know a whole bunch about their company. And so when I go in, I'm going to say like, it's on their front page, but Crunch is big thing, right? If you go to Crunch, Crunch's website, their big thing is the no judgments thing, right? Hashtag no judgments. They talk about the idea that they want their gym to be very inclusive and sort of a, everybody is part of the Crunch family and stuff. So that's kind of cool. I would probably bring that up during my interview. I'd probably say like, I want to work with a lot of people because like, fitness has impacted my life in a really positive way. And I would love to share that with as many people as possible without, targeting any specific population. I think that fitness is for everybody. And so you're not like saying, I have no judgments, because then it's like a little too on the nose. But if that wasn't on their website, that's probably something I could figure out with just a little bit of research about the company. I could call in and say, what do they look for in trainers? Chances are you're probably going to talk to a front desk person who has no idea that, you're just gathering as much intel as possible. And the manager's not going to know that you already have some of the answers to these questions, So it's really important to do your research. My favorite way of doing that makes me feel like a spy. I love to call in and be a little sneaky there. But definitely research the agency. This is the first thing you should always do when you start thinking about applying for a job. Research the organization to increase your knowledge, and then cater yourself specifically for that job. Sometimes you'll also like arrange, this is travel reimbursement that for an interview. That probably won't happen in LA if you're not traveling a long distance, but validation, make sure you get validated while you're in there and prep for that. This is one of the reasons why we show up early, so you can handle all that before your friggin' interview actually starts. So, you want to make sure that you are learning a little bit about the position. If I look online right now, if we go to Indeed and we type in personal trainer, actually there it is, fitness. Oh, that's the fitness on the one. I don't want one with the range. Fitness 19. I know that's a regular gym. So Fitness 19 has all the information here. They're hiring for the one on Colorado Boulevard. Let's learn a little bit about this. So this is the Eagle Rock location. Oh, this is where Debbie ended up working. I wonder if she's still there. Let's view all these classes. No more classes. Oh, wow, they don't have any of it listed. They gotta update their freaking website. Okay, well, that's kind of nice. Go to the bottom and we can see there's our management team, right? There's the club manager and there's the fitness manager. This is probably the person we would be interviewing with. He's been here since the beginning of 2020, so not too long. Calisthenics and arm wrestling. Got into it at an early age, happy to help people with their journey become cool. All right, so that's kind of fun. Like, if I was really into like body weight training, that's something that maybe I bring that up in my my interview, and it endears me to this Ole guy. So this is a very quick little bit of research, right? But I could also say, maybe in my phone interview, even before I get called in, I have a lot of knowledge around like SAQ training, and I love it when I can work on AstroTurf, and it's like, oh well, we have AstroTurf in our gym. It's like, oh great, I love that kind of stuff, or maybe it's like, you're really big on this is a nice little gym. Maybe you're really big on group exercise in one specific area, right? I wish I could see the freaking group exercise classes. I wish they had them all freaking listed, but they actually don't. If I print schedule. Oh, there we go. We can kind of see some of them. Oh yeah, Debbie is working there. She's teaching the 9:15 Bodyworks class. Yeah. So there's like these classes here. That's not like a little bit of research you could do. This, you might find that your ex coworker works in a place like this. So a little bit of research. What is that? It took us what, 2, 3, 4 minutes. Just hop online, but call the agency, do whatever you got to do to learn a little bit about it, so sort of what to say, and also so what your freaking commute is. That is something we should all be doing. If I go to Google Maps right now, let's say somebody's like, all right, I want to do an interview Monday morning at 9:30 a.m. Okay, so if I put like where I'm at, and then I'm going to Fitness 19 on Colorado Boulevard. Here's a mistake that I could make. Oh, okay, great. It'll be 20 minutes. Do you think it's going to be 20 minutes at 9:30 in the morning? Probably not. That is like rush hour traffic. So I can go over here. I can go to options. Actually, not under options. I can click, instead of leave now, I change this to arrive by. Change the option to Monday at 9, and we're going to say 15 because we want to be 15 minutes early for our arrival. It will typically take anywhere from 18 to 28 minutes. instead of what was it? It was like 20 minutes before. So that's still really close, but there we go. So now I can put that in my phone. I can add it to my calendar, and I will get an alert that says like, leave right now, you know? And that way I'm never freaking late for my interview, which is the number one thing that will make sure that you are, you know, shot in the foot. So know what your commute is and know a little bit about the parking situation as well. These are both, these are not, these aren't in the PowerPoint. These are Brad notes. But trust me, I've done this enough times that you do not want to be like, yeah, I'm here on time, but I'm in the parking garage. And okay, so you're late, you know, that means you're not on time. So next thing you want to do before you actually go to the interview, do a self-assessment. You know, take an assessment of what your skills are, your strengths, your weaknesses. I hate it personally, but they love to ask you that question. And, you know, what's your biggest weakness as a trainer? I think that is such a bland, stereotypical question. And there's much better ways to kind of get to the heart of what that is. Honestly, my favorite way to interview somebody when I want to find that out, because that is valuable information to have. But when I ask someone about that, it's I'm like, what is it that you really want to work on professionally for yourself over the next couple of years? I think that kind of explains, it will highlight what their weaknesses are, you know, what they want to get, what part of you do you want to improve in the next couple years, you know? Much cleaner and much more interesting if you ask me. But that is, now we're getting into more opinionated stuff. But make sure you do a self-assessment. Know about your skills, know about your strengths, know about your weaknesses. And then practice with a family or friend member, you know, just grab a family member, grab a friend, and just be like, hey, can you ask me some random interview questions? This is a really good idea. If you just don't know how to answer like certain things, if they're like, tell me about yourself, know what you're going to say, you know? What are your career goals? They loved it. The other one, where do you see yourself in 5 years? That's a classic interview question. My favorite thing that I've ever said in an interview was my interview for Biggest Loser. And they were like, and this is, I was engaged at the time. But they were like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I was like, well, hopefully married. And that was a really funny answer for like a guy to have out of the blue, you know? And they were like, what? And I was like, no, I'm kidding. I would like to, you know, and it was a really good, like little icebreaker, you know? It made everybody laugh. And I was told later that that was something that kind of made me stand out. I don't know if you have to necessarily go that route. I think that is kind of a weird thing to say. But I was really confident while I was in there because I wasn't even 100% certain I wanted that job. So I was very sort of overly confident. So practice so you know what to say. The more confident you are going in there, the better. And the best way to build up your confidence is to remove any of that scary unknown stuff. Any questions or comments so far, guys?
Good.
Feeling good. All righty. Okay. Let's talk about what to wear. So we're on the West Coast. This is so funny. My girlfriend, she's from New York, right? She would say, I'd be like, what do you wear for an interview? She's like, pantsuit, you know, like super professional, like all black, you know, because that's very much an East Coast thing. We are on the best coast. We're on the West Coast here, and things are definitely more casual. You know, everybody's walking around in you know, flip-flops and jeans and stuff. Don't wear jeans to your interview. And I know there's nice jeans, you know, like I have a nice pair that I don't wear when I'm doing work around the house. Yeah. That it doesn't matter. You should be wearing at least slacks, guys. And we've only got guys in here today. I can skip all the lady slides. So dress shoes for sure. not sneakers. I know it's a clean look. Like I know that like if I look up clean, nice outfits, men, yeah, I'm gonna see, a lot of really nice t-shirts and a lot of, look at that, white freaking sneakers. Look at that, 1, 2, 3, probably there as well. 4, 5, first line. And let's see if it was literally every line. Nope, that one's boots. Okay. Oh, so not bad. Freaking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6 out of 7. I know it's a clean look. Don't wear that to your interview. Doesn't matter how nice they are. Wear freaking dress shoes. And then wear dress socks that are dark or at least matching in color. Do not wear white socks with your dress shoes. It makes you look like you're 12 years old. So do not make that mistake. Make sure that they are, specifically dress socks. You can give it the freaking $1. That's where my dress socks came from, the dollar store. Because I do not put any special emphasis on socks. I talk constantly about like wearing proper shoes when it comes to athleticism. My socks, I get them as cheap as possible. Dress shoes, dress socks, and then slacks. Okay. Best way to do this, guys, we're looking for business casual. We look at business casual outfits for men. Here are a lot of really good options here. Like some of these are very East Coasty. I think that is extremely East Coasty. But dress shoes in almost all of them, not that nonsense. I know that counts, but I don't know. But that's a nice one with like a very, slacks, a button-down shirt, and like a jacket. This honestly is a classic, really good look for an interview. Slacks, I would put a belt on, and I would button this up higher, but this is great. It's not a bad look. So it's really just all you have to do is get like a button-down shirt and slacks, and you're going to be in a good spot. There we go. If you do want to wear a tie, go for it. If you want to go like full on tie, I used to really like doing that for certain. I definitely did that for Sochi, which is ironic because I wear a sweatshirt every day to work and a hat. But at the time, that's not what I wanted to portray. I wanted to show that I'm like well prepped. So I would do like a tie. I did roll my sleeves, which sometimes you'll hear people like don't do that, but I thought that that was again kind of business and casual. You can get away with a lot more here on the, like I said, on the West Coast. It's just a different pace out here. So this is gonna say like wear a freaking suit. You don't have to wear a full-on suit, but business casual is what we're going for. When it comes to your shirt, make sure it is a simple pattern. Plaid at the very most, but I don't even recommend that. I just think wear just a white or a light blue or magenta or some simple color shirt is what you want. A matching belt to go with your shoes. I don't know who made that rule, but I know that we should all follow it. Tie is optional. I really like wearing a tie. I think it kind of, just it brings the whole outfit together if you can pair it up really well. Make sure that your hair is well done. Make sure you shave and look clean. Guys, do not wear too much cologne. I will never forget. There was this really young, I didn't know how young he was. He was interviewing for a job at Sochi as an instructor. And this was somebody who was probably just like right out of school. I mean, like had to be 22, 23 years old. And we were on the 4th floor. So we took the elevator up to the 5th. And I was in an elevator with that guy, and his cologne nearly killed me. Not really, but I'm exaggerating. But it was just like, oh my God, I'm breathing pure Drakkar Noir. Like it was, do not do that during your interview. You don't know who's going to be sensitive to what, but you also don't know like how it's going to come off. So yeah, you can wear some cologne if you want to. I mean, this isn't a freaking date. So I don't know why you would, but just avoid wearing too much of it. And then, like I said, try to pick like some solid colors. My go-to, let's see here. I know it's like kind of boring, but my favorite go-to business casual look is either this one here, like what this guy's doing, with the white shirt, black tie, grape slacks, or I do like the blue, but I would probably go with like a slightly darker color there. Yeah, that's a really great look right there. Or even that, something just solid colors with gray slacks. That's my favorite. That's been my go-to interview look for freaking years. So yeah, that's sort of you want to and lay all that out before your interview. We'll talk about that in just a second. Obviously, there's a lot of women's stuff as well, a little bit different, and I'm certainly no expert on this, but luckily, I will only have to address that tonight. So color is really cool. That is a really good way for you to kind of enhance your appearance a little bit. If you want to throw on like I wouldn't go with like a tie that has like, stegosauruses on it or anything like that. But if you want to throw like a little bit of color in there with a tie, I think that could be really effective. Anybody have any questions about what business casual means and how to kind of apply this? Everybody's like, no, we don't need to talk about clothing. Let's go. Okay. So yeah, so that's but definitely a dress shoe, definitely dress shoes, definitely slacks, definitely socks that match, belt, and a button down is the key. If you want to throw a blazer on or something like that, you can, but I don't think it's necessary. Now, final preparations for one last little thing. Also, make sure your clothes fit. This is mostly a note. This is like a habit that younger guys have. This is a note for my younger students out there. Make sure you wear, make sure it hugs your body, not like super tightly, but like make sure it's comfy.
Okay. Yeah, no, like don't wear anything excessively baggy, right? Like
Yes.
that's a style, but not to get a job. Not to get a job.
I mean, look, in the 90s, yeah, it was all about friggin' you watch like old episodes of Friends and stuff, and it was like everything was so baggy. Those are baggy pants. Yeah. Oh my God. That was like a thing back in the day. Don't do that. Now it makes you look like you're 5 years old.
Right.
And your parents are like, well, he's gonna grow into it. Ugh. The only reason I'm like cringing so hard at that is because I 100% did that when I was like 18. I had no idea what I was doing. So yeah. All right, final preparations leading up to your interview. So you want to make sure that you have all your documents with you. So review any of the information for the job that you're applying for. I like to print out the job description and stuff beforehand so that I kind of, can review it. Like if I print it, it just gives it a little bit of weight. I don't have to do it with every job that I apply for. I just do it for the ones that I'm getting called in for an interview. But it just gives it a little bit of like importance, a little bit of weight, which makes me feel more prepped. So review any of that information. Make sure you set your resume, cover letter. If you have a references sheet, put that aside in a place where you can find it. I will also often, if I have access to it, print my own application. So I have a copy of that. That has come in handy for me a couple times during interviews. Sochi was one of them, actually. When I had my interview for Sochi, I had all of that information, and I had 2 copies of my resume, 2 copies of my cover letters, everything like that. And Greg was the one interviewing me, and then Jessica, who still works at Sochi, she's our academic dean. She was the one who did orientation. Jessica like just kind of barged in, just kind of like she was like, "Hey, I just figured I'd sit on your interview." And Greg was like, "All right." And I remember like being like, "Well, there's friction here." Those 2 didn't get along, but I remember that from my first day as well. But she came in and he didn't have it. He hadn't printed an extra copy of all of my information. I was like, I got you. And I pulled all those things out of my portfolio and handed it to her. So now, again, I'm just showing that I'm really well prepared. I thought ahead. And again, my interview was great. My teaching demo was not, but I still got the job because they were willing to call me in for a second teaching demo because my interview was very strong. So lay your stuff out beforehand, make sure you have that. And guys, put it in a freaking portfolio. Okay. Everybody buy one of these. Just go get yourself a portfolio. Not one of those. What were the old ones we were in like high school and stuff?
Trapper keepers.
Yeah, Trapper Keepers. Not one of these. You know, don't with the freaking like, you know, when I was in school, it was like, yeah, it was all stuff like this. Like the girls always have like the dolphins and stuff. Yeah, the no rules. That's right. For all my 90s folks. It was all stuff. Yeah, not like one of those. Not that type of portfolio. Oh, I had this one. Holy crap. I was obsessed with baseball. So distracted. And then lots of color. Don't do that either. Just pick up a very, very, very simple black plastic portfolio. If you want to get a leather one, honestly, I recommend it. They're not that expensive. They're, you know, there's a really simple one for $1.29. But if you wanted one that is a little bit more substantial, you know, yeah, you could buy a slightly nicer one for 10 bucks, 15 bucks. There's a $10 one that looks really nice. So yeah, just something like that. And it keeps your documents really, really clean. And it shows that you're like walking in with something. It gives you a much more professional look right off the bat. Don't buy one of these $7, $8 ones. It's stupid, but yeah, just get a very, very, very simple portfolio or a document protector. Yeah, document holder. Maybe. There we go. Oh, it's 23, but oh, that's a 50 pack. All right, well, if they sell one of those individually, that'll be less than $1. And it's really clean looking, you know? So make sure you do that, guys. It looks really good in your interview. And it keeps all your stuff really, really clean, which sends the right impression. And then, like I said, map out your commute. I said it already, but do it again. Make sure, you know, the night before, just make sure you're definitely going to show up on time. So that's what to sort of like prep and bring the day before your interview. So let's go ahead and talk about like specific types of interviews. There's a lot of examples here, but you know, the ones you'll actually run into are a little less comprehensive. So first one you're going to have is what's called a screening. That's the first contact. So when like someone reaches out and they're like, you know, hey, we're thinking about, you know, just wanted to call you to see if you're interested in coming in for an interview, but I wanted to ask you a few questions first. That's the screening. Okay. Usually these are over the phone. I mean, they're definitely over the phone, unless you happen to be working at the gym. Sometimes like, I interviewed one time for a job at a gym that I worked at. So I never work out at the gym that I work at. That's just a me thing, but like it's my workout, but the gym is a sacred place for me as well. And I don't like it to be my place of work. So I was working out at this gym down in Hollywood off La Brea. And you know, somebody, I was in there and I would chat with members, and you know, it was like a, you know, fun like thing. And I got to know the training manager, and he's like, do you train? I was like, yeah, I do. Yeah, I do this over here at this, and started asking me like several questions and stuff. And I was like a sweaty mess. He was like, do you want to come in for an interview? And I was like, yeah. And then, yeah, once I found out more about what it's like to work there, I was like, not interested. But that's like a screening. A screening is an initial point of contact. Okay. It is like a little mini interview. Usually it's over the phone. Like, you know, you're not around to do it in person. And sometimes you'll also get a screening if you guys do go through like a hiring agency. Sometimes they'll actually like call you in particular, or maybe it'll be actually handled by, I've gotten calls from like the front desk staff, which part of me has got to be like, there's no way that's their job. But I've definitely gotten calls from the front desk before where they're like, hey, so-and-so wanted me to schedule you for an interview. What is your availability? And I lay all that out, and then they book me into a slot. And they're totally treating the front desk person like an assistant, which they shouldn't be doing. But I've had that. I think twice, maybe more than that even. Might be forgetting. So that's the screening, the initial like contact. Sometimes you're going to run into panel interviews. This is where you have like a team of people who are interviewing you and like grilling you different questions. Two of the major jobs I've had, yeah, Biggest Loser was like this. This is how we ran things when I did interviews at WellFit. I did sort of a miniature panel version. I had 3 people in the room. Sochi, Jessica came in and asked me questions. That was 2 individuals. So sometimes you'll get questions from multiple people. Moves a little bit quicker, moves pretty fast when that's happening. But you just want to make sure that like you're making eye contact with everybody, initially listening to whoever's asking the question directly, making eye contact with them. But then once you start explaining, then you kind of branch off and sort of address everybody. And that's the only trick to a panel interview. Other than that, it should feel exactly the same. You're just going to answer the questions to the best of your ability, But obviously, the interview that most of you guys are probably thinking of is the classic one-on-one interview, right? Like this is, you're meeting with the hiring manager and, you're discussing potential employment, right? So there's a really good chance for you to build rapport with the interviewer. I would always give people the chance to do this. When I worked at Sochi, one of the things I would do during the interview is I would always have them come to the front desk floor, even though I never did my interviews down there on the 4th floor. I always did them on the 5th. And that way, I'd be like, hey, do you want a tour? And I'd be like, yeah. And I'd walk them through the building. I would give them probably a 10-minute tour before the interview started for 2 reasons. Number one, I wanted to give them time to work out any nerves and get unnervous in case they were really freaked out. And then number 2, I wanted to see how well they talk to me. I wanted to see if they could like build a little bit of rapport with me and we could chat about stuff not related to the interviews. I wanted to hear that because like I want an instructor who's going to relay the information really well, but I also want to have an instructor that like my students are going to trust. You spend a lot of hours with this person, and if I don't think that like they have a good rapport with my like students, I'm not hiring them. I've had plenty of people interview who were technically very knowledgeable, but they just didn't know how to relate with people, and that happens sometimes in science majors. So that's the one-on-one interview is what you're actually going to probably experience the most of the time. A good opportunity for you to build a lot of rapport. It's easy to talk to someone one-on-one, that's going to feel much more comfortable. So give yourself like a chance to kind of build as much rapport as you can with these people. And then maybe you can't actually meet in person. We are definitely in the age of Zoom right now. I think the world has definitely changed. This isn't even an option right now, but like telephone or, Zoom interviews, used in situations where you can't actually meet up. It sounds odd, but even during a phone interview, try to get dressed up. And it sounds really weird, but like I've heard that tip from everybody who's ever talked about interviewing. Like when you guys meet up with Miriam, our career services director, and she's like walking you through things, she'll tell you the same thing. It just puts your brain into a little bit of context of like, yep, I'm taking this seriously. And you sit yourself down. Me, I'm a walker and talker. When I'm on the phone, like yesterday, my girlfriend, I was like, she was like, you want me to leave? Were you talking on the phone to your mom? Because I had to call my mom. I was like, oh, no, I'm going to go down and pace in the yard. She's like, what? And I was like, yeah, no, I just do laps. And so sure enough, like, I just like walk around the perimeter of my yard a whole bunch while I'm on the phone. I'm a walker, Try not to do that during your interviews. I'll be honest, I probably still do, but I think it does sometimes get distracting. because I run into something and I'm walking through the yard. I'm like, oh, I didn't pick up the dog poop. You know, you don't want that to cross into your brain while you're interviewing for your potential job. So sit down, minimize your distractions, get yourself alone in an empty room, and try to dress up. It'll put your brain into an interview professional context, you know. But it's great because like the nice thing about telephone interviews is you got the advantage, you know, you're going to be in your own setting. You're going to feel much more comfortable. By the way, your Zoom interviews, same thing. I know that the big joke is like, everybody's like, they'll dress professionally from the time, and then like they stand up and they're wearing like shorts or something. Yeah, don't be that person. Don't even put that at risk. Get your dress shoes on, even if you are only on Zoom. You don't have any, you know, it's going to be a lot harder to pick up on like facial cues and things like that. Nonverbal communication is going to be eliminated when it comes to the interview, you know. We're going to talk about some of those nonverbal communication things in just a sec, but like, you know, this is a chance for you to kind of listen very specifically. I like to take notes if I have a phone. I've only done 2 phone interviews, so I shouldn't say I like, you know, as if I've done a bunch, but it is good to kind of take notes because you have the opportunity to, and so you can circle back. You know, we're going to talk about like, you know, how you can turn the questions around at the end of your interview. That's a very valuable thing to do. If you take notes, you're going to know specifically what to ask about, you know. So that is the telephone. So again, dress up, make sure that you stand up or stand still or sit up, use some notes, watch the ums, and try to minimize your distractions. Those are all the sort of general tips and tricks for doing a really good phone interview. So any questions before that's all the specific sort of like unique stuff. Any specific questions before we move into general tips and tricks?
No. Thank you.
All right. Well, we are blazing through this. So general considerations, guys. Please try to always arrive early. I prefer showing up 15 minutes early, but here's what I'll say about that. Don't walk into the gym 15 minutes early. 5 to 10 minutes at the most. I will say I used to get kind of annoyed. I didn't know this was a thing. I didn't know this was a thing until I was like a teacher, hiring for another teacher, but I would have class specifically from you know, this hour to this hour, and I would always spend an extra hour doing all my paperwork and grading and stuff in class. And it was just a free time for my students to kind of hang out in my class after things were over. It's kind of like the 15-minute window before class now. It was where I kind of handled stuff. And if anybody had questions that weren't related to the lecture, you know, sometimes newer students would be like, can you build me a workout? And I would sort of walk them through that process sometimes. I loved that. I loved that hour. You know, I always had that hour available to everybody. And by the way, you guys, for the record, if you ever want to call, I don't have that hour anymore, and it was my favorite part of the day every day. So, you know, if you guys ever just need to chat about something else, you guys are always welcome to call me. I'm not always available, but I'll try my best. Anyway, I loved that hour. And inevitably, I'd be like, all right. And I would book my appointment. My interviews would always start 1 hour after my class ended. And like, you know, I was like, come at this time. And people would show up 15, 20 minutes early. And I would get a call from the front desk, you know, up to my room. And I'd be like, what? And I'd be like, hey, your interview is here. And I would just feel pressure to like end things early and go meet with that person now. And I hated it. I was annoyed. Then I was annoyed at the fact that I was annoyed. I was like, I shouldn't judge these people for showing up early. Showing up early is a good quality, but I'm annoyed at them for cutting off, you know, my time. So I do recommend showing up early, but I don't, you know, remember they probably picked a specific time for a reason. So if you're showing up like 15, 20 minutes early, I don't know. I think it sends kind of the wrong message. So 5 to 10 minutes is the perfect window. I love 5. But be in the parking lot, you know, make sure that you have time to like deal with the parking. The 15-minute window is great. you can goof around on your phone in the car for a few minutes. Wait patiently, don't go to, you don't have to ask directly for the manager and, go up to the gym floor and try to find them. Just front desk will usually say, okay, just go ahead and sit over there. We'll let them know that you're here. And by the way, they're in the middle of their workday, so they might go back to doing something unrelated, and they might not go directly and find that person yet. Answer a phone call here, write a note there, check a member in there. Then they'll go get the person. Don't get impatient in that like window and feel like you have to rush over there. Maintain eye contact during the interview. This is a part of like active listening. We're always looking for that active listening skill. Best way to make somebody feel as if you are actually listening to them is to maintain eye contact for one, and to make sure that you are asking questions related to whatever it is that they are saying. David, I think you actually do this very, 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 very well. You have I don't know if it's an intentional habit, but something that you do that I have been waiting to say, because I thought about this. I thought about this a couple days ago, and I was going to say this to everybody in class. I was going to use this as an example. Something you do really, really well is you guys. So what you're saying is, and then you'll lay it out afterwards. But you'll start a lot of your sentences like that, and it makes me think, man, this guy is really paying attention. That's what I think every time I hear that. Do that during your interview, you're in a good spot. I don't know that you need to be quite as wordy about it. You guys can say whatever version of that sentence you want, but it conveys the same message. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, so, and then just lay out whatever it is that they said. That's great. You can parrot it back to them in your own words. That shows that you are comprehending and actively listening to the other person. So do that while you're maintaining eye contact. You're going to be in a good spot. Firm handshake. It's a big thing. People still judge people based on their handshake nowadays. Make some small talk. Do you guys remember? I always think of the handshake thing. There's an episode of King of the Hill where you get to meet George Bush, and he gave him like one of those like cup hands, and he was like, George Bush has got a weak handshake, and it like shook his beliefs. But yeah, make a firm handshake. I don't know. I don't have to take handshaking workshops or anything like that. Try to make some small talk before your interview actually starts. It's always kind of nice. I've got one built in, being that I live in California as a Seahawks fan. It's always kind of fun to say something about the Seahawks, because inevitably there are a lot of Rams and Niners fans down here. And that's always fun. What's that, David?
I was gonna say the Seahawks, they should have ran the ball, man. That's all they should have done. But,
don't even get me started on where we are this season.
Oh, my friend is a huge Seahawks fan, and I mentioned it to him, and he got so upset. He went on the rant for like an hour.
That day will live in my brain for the rest of my life. But yeah, it's a fun little small talk thing. It's a good thing that it's something we can all kind of bond over. Or even if you just say something as simple as like, oh man, sorry, I'm a little sore, something related to working out, make a little bit of small talk. Or, even it's just like, oh, I love this gym. I love that machine. Those are really fun to work on. You get a really good atmosphere here. Music, whatever, just small talk, just little bits of things, and then try to maintain as professional an attitude as possible. Obviously, you want to make sure that you are maintaining that professional sort of screen, be endearing, be yourself, show as much of your personality as you can. We work in a personality driven industry. Personal training is personal, but you still want to maintain as much professionalism as possible, because yeah, that is going to be what sort of sets you aside. So that is all the general stuff. I want to go walk you through some specific questions that you may run into in our industry in particular. So when it comes to interview questions, there's going to be a lot of different ones out there. Sometimes you're going to get philosophical questions. You'll get a lot of knowledge-based or experience questions. That's going to make up the bulk of most of them. Situational questions. And sometimes you'll get the very stupid think on your feet questions that I hate. So be aware of all of these. This is where, again, if you want to like literally print out some of these PowerPoint slides and ask your friends to interview you using some of these, I think that's a really valuable thing. I've had students do that in the past. And have been told that it really makes them feel at ease. So personal questions, these are easy, right? Personal questions are things like, why do you want this job? Tell me about yourself. What are your hobbies? What are your short-term, long-term goals, right? That's all the stuff. They're just trying to get to know you a little bit, you know? And that is fine. That's really good. Those are easy to answer, good questions. All you gotta do is talk about yourself, which probably isn't that hard, you know? Tell me a little bit about yourself is like, well, I've been training for this many years. I got into personal training because. That's a really good thing. If you got a great story behind how you got into fitness and stuff, that's awesome. What your short-term and long-term goals are, I think that's really great. You know, a message that I've used consistently for years now that I find just is very authentic and comes off really well is my long-term goal is to have helped as many people as possible. I want to have like as many clients, you know, that for me fits really well into so many different jobs in the personal training industry, because like it's conveying that like, you know, I got into this because I'm trying to make a difference, and it conveys that like I'm probably going to put a lot of emphasis on, you know, being good at sales, because I can't help people if I don't sell memberships, and a lot of that is what's important to a lot of training, you know, gym managers. So other personal questions, 3 words that describe you. I hate stuff like that, but you'll get that sometimes. What is your greatest strength? What is your greatest weakness? Here's the thing. When it comes to the greatest strength and when it comes to the greatest weakness, the greatest strength, lay it out. Be as honest as possible. With your greatest weakness, don't be super you can do the humble brag a little bit, but don't be super obvious about it. Like if you're great, don't be like, oh, my greatest weakness is that I show up I'm too punctual, I'm too professional. Great strategy, because you're trying not to like, you know, say something too negative about yourself, but it comes off as ingenuine. So greatest weakness, if you want to say something like, you know, sometimes what I have said in the past, I think works well, is like, yeah, sometimes I get very wrapped up in being a little bit too detail oriented, and I'll get in the weeds with some of the smaller details. And that will take up time when I'm trying to work on a bigger picture with a client. Sometimes I will focus on short-term goals so much, I forget to revisit long-term goals. And I'm aware of that. And it's something that, you know, because I'm aware of it, I have to consciously think about it. But I'd say it's my greatest weakness. That's a good, you know, that shows that it's like when you're showing awareness of like what you're struggling on, it means that like they're like, okay, yeah, that's a bit of a struggle, but clearly you're putting the effort in. It's not something they have to worry about. So that's one of my favorites. Or even like sometimes I get in the weeds. Another one I'll say, and I've told you guys this in class before. I'll get really wrapped up in measurable results and measurable information, and sometimes lose sight of the immeasurable stuff, you know, the subjective stuff. And then they go, oh, okay. So that kind of is highlighting a bit of my personality, which is, you know, very technical. So those are that's figure out something that you can say that's going to kind of seal that deal for you guys, you know, your version of that. You'll get some philosophical questions sometimes. These are related to like, you know, things that might happen on the job. So what's your philosophy on management? What's your philosophy on customer service? You know, I've had that question. It's like, what's your philosophy on customer service? My favorite answer to that, if you ever get that, is, well, I mean, the customer is always right. I don't know that I 100% agree with that, because, you know, they wouldn't be coming to me as the expert. But I will say that the customer is always in the right spot. And that sentence, I don't know, people love that. They just go, oh, that's so well worded. I use that a couple times and it always gets a good reaction. So I don't know the customer's always right, but I do know they're always in the right spot if they're trying to train with me. It just comes off as a little bit cocky, but like, you know, it just shows confidence. What's your philosophy about youth or fitness? When it comes to fitness, this is another one. When I went in for my Biggest Loser interview, they were like, they literally almost word for word, they were like, what is your philosophy on fitness? And I was like, and I said, well, if you're looking for a trainer that's going to yell at people drill instructor style, I'm probably not a very good fit. I'm not a big fan of like yelling or punishing. That being said, I do love to yell in excitement when I'm teaching group exercise classes. I like to positively motivate people. I'm a big positive reinforcement trainer. I'm not big on punishment, you know? So if that's the approach, then I'm probably not a good fit. I laid it out kind of like that. And that was a moment that stood out. And my manager told me later, he was like, that was a weird moment, but it did show that you knew you were very confident in your own personality. That could have gone very poorly. That could have ended the interview immediately because maybe that's exactly what they were looking for. But I didn't want to work in a place that was like that anyways, which is why I laid it out the way I did. You guys should try to do the same. Figure out if your philosophy is going to match up with where you're working. You know, this is why, you know, I said what I needed to get hired at Equinox, but then I was like, nope, I actually don't want to work here. You know, figure out if your philosophy matches the gym that you're applying for. You might not want to work there. You'll get some knowledge-based questions. You're going to get a lot of these. This is big in our field. Knowledge-based questions are directly related to, you know, the job that you're going to have. So this one here, they'll say like, do you have computer software? You know, what software you're familiar with? We don't have too much software in our industry, but you will have to know how to use POS. And that's point of sales. Point of sale systems are how you're going to set up memberships and check out your guests. You need to be familiar with that stuff and know how to do it. So if you are like, well, I've used like MindBody before, right? So MindBody is this like software that a lot of gyms use nowadays. You know, if you've ever gone in for like a spa or, you know, haircut or, you know, group exercise class, you know, all of these companies use it. And they got the iPad and they, you know, you flip it around and you click the buttons and stuff. That is, if you're familiar with that, great, you know, show that off and tell people, you know, that is the software that a lot of people use. But maybe you don't have direct experience with that. You're familiar with something else. You're like, well, I've used POS systems in the past at other gyms that I've worked at. Great, it's a good answer, you know. What steps would you take in developing a youth, we're gonna say, fitness program instead of arts and crafts here? That's a really knowledge-based, you know, thing. It's like, well, I know like if I'm working with youths, I'm going to focus more on endurance and cardiovascular exercise, but most importantly, honestly, I'm going to make sure the workouts are fun. Great answer, you know. That's gonna show, you know, the most important parts there. Seniors, right? So I'm going to focus on mobility and strength and endurance. Athletes, I'm going to focus on power and rate of force production. Weight loss, I'm going to focus on, you know, maximizing calorie burn. You know, you guys have heard me say this in class before. Well, some of you guys have heard me say this in class before. One of the sneakiest ways to burn some extra calories with a client who's really obese, who's trying to lose a lot of weight, keep them on their feet the whole session. You know, instead of doing a seated shoulder press, do a standing shoulder press. Instead of doing a machine chest press, do a standing cable chest press. That little bit of like on the feet work is going to burn some extra calories. You say that in your interview, they're going to go, this person knows what they're talking about. What an expert, you know, they're going to want to hire you. Sometimes you get situational questions. These are the ones where they will create a scenario that is meant to be sort of for any of my Star Trek nerds out there. This is the Kobayashi Maru test, where there is no way to win. It is sort of a lose-lose, or there's only one specifically good answer, but that's like a situational question. These are usually found these are usually like workplace scenarios. I don't see these very often. I've only seen this in one interview in my entire life. And it was when I was working at Geek Squad, actually. It was working for Best Buy. This was like not even personal training. But it's like, you see someone smack the side of the vending machine in order to get a free bag of Lay's potato chips. What do you do? Honestly, real life answer, I'd be like, well, okay. I'm not gonna do anything, what they're looking for is like, they're looking to say, oh, like that person should have paid, it's specifically they're looking to see like your work ethic and things like that. A child is injured. How would you handle that situation? You receive a call that one of your employers used profanity. What would you do in confronting that? Yeah, it's a lot of questions directly related to like, all those HR sort of things, just making sure that you're professional and trustworthy and honest. You won't get too many of those. Like I said, I've only seen that one time, and I was working for like a super corporate situation like Best Buy. You will get some think on your feet questions. I hate these. I think these are so silly, but there's the no correct answer to these. These are very weird questions. They're just trying to see your personality come through, and they're trying to trip you up. They're literally just trying to ask you the weirdest thing possible to make you think on your feet. So if you were a cartoon character, who would you be and why? Compare yourself to this thumbtack. If you were a tree, what type of tree would you be? Blah, 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 blah. You could have dinner with one person, who would it be and why? I actually really like that one, but hate all that, but you will get those every now and then. They'll say like, what's your favorite style of training? I think is a close to an on your feet question. That one's not so bad. At least that one's at least easy to answer in the industry. Closing questions. So this is something I do a bajillion times during our Zoom calls every day. So your closing questions are where the interviewer is going to kind of wrap things up and say, is there anything else you'd like to tell us? Why should we hire you? Do you have any questions for me? That's a big one. I ask you guys that a bajillion times every day, right? You guys got any questions? We feeling good? I know it's like my freaking catchphrase. I'm gonna put that on my business card. But that is, they're just trying to get a chance to see, like, one thing is that it kind of shows if you are listening or not. Always, always, always have at least one question for your interviewer. Make sure that it is not the super cliche, when do I start? Don't do that. That's overly confident. That's cocky. Don't ask about salary. That's not something we ask about in the interview. Salary will come up once you are offered the job. But questions like, yeah, what does the day-to-day normally look like? Do you guys, when it comes to training, do you guys offer like reduced packages for, a greater number of sessions sold? That's really good. One of my favorite questions to ask about is, and this is money related without asking about salary needs, is, do you guys do redemption bonuses or commission bonuses or a combination of both? So just to walk you through what that means, commission bonuses are where you will get a certain commission based on your sales, right? So like you'll get your the way training works is you'll get your hourly rate. Let me see if I can even find this. That's customer service. Is not what I'm looking for. Yeah, I'm not going to find this. They're not posting this online for sure. So here's the thing about 24-hour fitness. You'll get your hourly rate when you are training your clients, but you'll also get, let's say, 10% commission on the sale. So if you sold like a package for $1,000, that's $100 in your pocket as commission. Now, if you get a certain amount of commission, let's say in the pay period, you do $15,000 in sales, that might give you an extra 10% bonus on that 15 grand in terms of like a commission bonus. Or maybe you'll get a commission bonus. You know, they'll have different tiers of that, which is why managers are constantly trying to encourage you to that. So that's a commission bonus. There will also be what is called a redeeming bonus in some gyms. This is getting more popular in the last few years, and it's a really good way for you to make money. A redeeming bonus is where you get a bonus based on the number of sessions that you are training with your clients. So the faster you burn through the training sessions and the more hours that you work in the week, obviously you're gonna make more money because you worked more hours. Great. But you will also get a redeeming bonus because you are churning through sessions very quickly. What is that? The reason they do that is because they're trying to incentivize people to train their clients as fast as possible, because then they're going to buy more sessions afterwards. So you want to have kind of a blend of like commission bonuses with high sales and then redeeming bonuses. You can't really have both. You know, if you're selling a ton, chances are your schedule is going to be busy after that, which means then you're going to go into like a really high redemption bonus. And because you're redeeming sessions, right, you're working all those hours training people, you're probably not working the floor doing new sales. So you'll get a commission bonus one month, you'll get a redeeming bonus the next, and it'll kind of bounce back and forth. Or, you know, a lot of times it'll actually be first pay period will be a commission bonus, second pay period will be a redeeming bonus. So love to ask questions about that to the interview. It's like, do you guys have redeeming compensations, redeeming bonuses, commission bonuses, in addition to hourly? That's a question about salary without asking how much does this job pay? And that's a really solid one. So definitely use that opportunity, but salary in particular, only ask that question when you're offered the job. So can you tell me a little bit about the typical schedule? That's a really good one. What do you use to evaluate employee performance? That's a really good one. And then the other really good one, in addition to that commission redeeming question, where is it? This one here. Are there opportunities for professional development? Or you can reword that and say, how does advancement work within this company? That is a super awesome question to ask an interviewer, because it shows me that you're looking for a career. It shows that you're like, I want to work here and I want to climb the ladder. I want to be the head trainer. I want to be the manager. I want to be the, you know, whatever. That means you're going to be here for a while. And honestly, the first thing that I think of when I think of that, if someone's going to be here for a while, it means I don't have to do interviews again soon. And I hate doing interviews. Everybody hates doing interviews. They interrupt your schedule. So if we can hire somebody that's going to be here for the long haul, great. You know, so there are some illegal questions. If they ask you these, you do not have to answer these, and chances are you should probably get the heck out of there. But if they ask you questions about your age, your race, your religion, your ethnicity, citizenship, marital status, family status, physical appearance, health, disabilities, sexual preferences, criminal record, if you're a member of non-professional affiliate, they ask you about your military record. None of that is allowed. They are not allowed to ask those type of questions, you know? Now, that being said, they can say something like, oh, I see here on your resume that you're a member of, there's professional affiliations. Okay, sure, yeah. But that is on your resume. You presented them. They're allowed to ask it then, right? Military record, yeah, they are allowed to say stuff like that, like, oh, you were in the military. What was that like? You know, they can say stuff like that if it's on your resume or if it's on the application. But like questions about like your political affiliations or like religion and stuff, they are not allowed to ask you questions like that. If they are, and like they're using it to inform their decision, that's literally illegal, especially in California. And the same is true on your end, by the way. Don't flip that around. You are not allowed to ask those questions either, and it looks bad. Refuse to answer the question and just move on. Now, after the interview is over, make sure you are sending a thank you letter. Some people will say thank you card. Arlene was talking about this last night. She said that she was talking about how a friend of hers that she worked with sent a thank you card after the interview when he didn't hear anything. And then they decided to call him in for another interview, and eventually he got the job based on that thank you card. I don't think you necessarily have to send a postcard or a thank you letter in person, but a follow-up email 2 to 3 days later, just saying like, hey, thanks so much. Look forward to a next interview. Really had a good time. Something like that. Very, very simple, couple lines, really brief. It's not a full cover letter or anything like that, but it's a really good way to kind of remind them of you. Oftentimes you get a second interview. It's usually between you and 1 to 2 other people. They're very serious about hiring you at that point. So now you can really let your personality shine through. And that's where you can, oftentimes the second interview for us will actually be like a teaching demo or like a training demo. They'll say, okay, I want you to, show me what a typical group exercise class would look like for you. Or they'll say like, oh, show me what a typical personal training session would look like. Sometimes they'll give you case studies. Those are the most fun. Love those. They'll be like, all right, here's your client. They're, 45 years old. They have arthritis in their left knee, and they have a really bad, L4, L5 problem. Love that, that always is a really good opportunity for you to kind of show off your skills, which you guys are going to have a lot of because we walk through a lot of these scenarios. So definitely prepare for those questions. That's I think that should be the big message today. You notice a lot of this was just related to being prepared. The more prepared you are for your interview, the better. And that's about it today, guys. I said it before, I'll say it again. Any questions?
Nothing much, just basic stuff, like when you get interviewed, they're gonna ask you certain questions. They're just gonna ask you like, oh, well, what do you bring to the table as a trainer? Why should we hire you? What do you think are your qualities? And then they'll just ask you other questions. But for the most part, they just want to see if you're qualified, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Oh, David, you ever had an interview, bro?
Yeah, I've had a bunch, and I never got any of the jobs.
Because you were a kid, fool. That's why you were too young.
Yeah, exactly. Because when I was trying to get a job, I had just turned 16, and this is around the time where everybody's getting a job, like everybody like a couple of years back, everybody was getting a job, so there was a lot of competition. So everywhere I went, I'm fresh 16, like I literally turned 16 the week before. So they didn't want to give me the job, like literally no place. I applied everywhere in the valley, because I can't go outside of the valley. How am I going to get there, because I can't drive yet. So I applied everywhere in the valley. Nowhere took me because I was too young. I had no experience. And then I remember one place, like they just told me they couldn't give me the job because I had no experience. And I said, how am I supposed to build experience if no place wants to give me the experience, So, I mean.
Hey, David, as someone who hired working retail, just like in general, because California laws are so strict with minors, that's why they won't hire anyone under 18, because literally between your work permits and the hours you're allowed to work, it's not worth the time for them to train you because it usually doesn't fit into their schedules.
That is a big one.
Because I literally they can't work past like a certain time. And like, especially like during holiday season, you get a lot of like minors trying to apply for jobs, and we're open till like 10 midnight and they can't even work that late because it's holiday season. Because they have to be off, they can work between like 6 and 9 or something like that. It's a very short period that you're allowed with your work permit because they're so strict. And usually like there's a certain amount of hours people have to work and you're limited to what you can work by your work permit.
Yeah, because my cousin he has a job at McDonald's right now and he could only work, I think, from like 5 until 8 or 9 around that time, but he can't work that. I think only on the weekends is when they are allowed to give him on 7 or 8 hours, but for the most part, he's only stuck working like 3-4 hours a day.
Yeah, non-school days is non-school time, so like vacations and stuff, but during the regular time, you're trying to find a job. It's hard for 16-year-olds because of the fact that the work permits are so strict. Like you're allowed like 4 hours a day and can't work more than 20 hours a week. And they're looking for people who have like open availability because, you know, people call out and are flaky.
Yeah. Like they just don't find it worth it. Like they don't find that investment worth it because I get what you're saying, but
so here's, you know, now, I mean, you're old enough now for sure. But again, like you want to present yourself, you know, on a level playing field, you know, make sure you're coming in business casual, make sure your outfit freaking fits, you know? That's a big thing that I feel like I've seen in a lot of younger people. They'll often wear clothing that is like way too big and baggy. It makes you look younger. It makes it look like a kid who put on their dad's suit, you know?
Yeah.
So that's another big one.
And if you need work outfits, to be honest, I've seen people and I've talked to people who like don't have a lot of money because, you know, they just starting working or they haven't worked yet. You can go find a decent pair of pants and a shirt at like Target or even like H&M because they're always so cheap, or Forever 21. And it'll be like, the style's fitted now, so like, at least you'll find something that fits correctly and you can get it for like a good amount of money. So
yeah, 100%. Any other questions today, guys, or comments?
No, I had something, but it's not related to class. So
you can get it after the call.
Yeah.
All right.
What's something you would recommend, like you know, kind of on the same topic we were talking yesterday, like, you know, getting the certs before, but like something to, like, any positions you would recommend to kind of get in the industry or just kind of get like an insider's view type of thing?
Yeah, so I actually really like you're talking about where to work, right?
Just like you know, like something to look for now, you know, 'cause I plan on doing it on my own.
Yeah.
But like just kind of something to do now to kind of get, like, I don't know, like an inside scoop or something, you know what I mean?
I honestly think some of the best stuff you can do is if you're going out for like those regular commercial style gyms, 24, LA Fitness, all the Golds, all that kind of stuff. Because those are kind of the biggest ones out there and those are the most common. The interviews will be very corporate. They'll be very, you know, it's like this training manager wants to get back to their day. They have a list of questions that they were taught to ask. So just kind of get familiar with like kind of rattling off the answers to those things, which are, you know, this is my training style. This is, you know, how I approach things. And then the big thing that they'll ask you a lot about is sales. That's the thing that like those training managers will care the most about, because that's how they're getting their commission bonuses. You know, they get bonuses based on how well you're selling. So a lot of questions about like the sales environment, or a lot of comments about how terrific of a salesman you are. Those are some of the best things you can say in a lot of interviews.
All right. Yeah, I was talking to more of like like stuff to look for now, you know, before, it's a little off topic, I guess, like before being done with school, like anything you would recommend to kind of get into industry now, like just get like a part-time job or something.
Oh, front desk.
Yeah,
honestly, that's a great, I mean, that's what I did. I worked at the front desk for 6 months, I think even less than that actually, and then talked to the training manager. LA Fitness has been doing this thing. I don't know how they're getting away with this, but they have been taking on people who are going to get their training certification. So like they've been taking on people that are like, you know, training to get it. And they're like, well, as long as you're going to have it in the next 6 months, we'll hire you now. So, you know, if you can find a job like that, great. You guys know exactly what your your graduated expected date is. We have it listed, you know, it's in your profile. So you could do something like that.
all right, cool.
Yeah.
I have a question. So
Yeah.
say, for example, like somebody doesn't want to work at like a corporate gym, but they want to work, maybe do like their own thing, like online training or something.
Sure.
But how would one go about finding like while they're like in school or something, find like a mentor who to help them out, like
Hmm.
what would you recommend? Like, you know, like, do you know that anybody actually does that? Like takes on like an unpaid intern just to kind of like, you know, like,
Interns? Yeah, so you're not really allowed to do that in this industry, because if you're hiring an intern, they're probably not certified. They can't be, you can't really work with someone who's not really like certified. But you can often find like small situations in gyms. Again, I said kind of like front desk. A lot of times smaller gyms will hire someone at the front desk who wants to be a trainer eventually, and then they'll like bring them in. That's where, like, how many times have you been to a gym where someone's like, how'd you get into this? How'd you become a trainer? And they're like, oh, I used to work out here a lot, you know. Smaller gyms will often do that, for sure. So becoming a member and getting familiar and like building a relationship with the management team, that could be something that you do.
okay.
Any others? This is good. We got a good volley of questions here. All right, killing the recording. Let you guys out of here.